Welcome to Becoming Limitless. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs who want to optimize their brain and their body with biohacking. I'm going to teach you how to eliminate brain fog and upgrade your health so you can have more productivity, energy, and growth in your business. I'm your host, Tanessa Shears. Let's jump in. Welcome back to the podcast. I hope you've been having a great week so far. This week for me has felt a little bit upside down. If you've been following along over the last couple of episodes, we actually just moved into our new house. We've been in it 1 week and there are boxes absolutely everywhere. And my office is currently a stack of boxes and a desk. So the room is very echoey right now. So I'm recording in the cozy space of the closet to hope that we get really good audio. So fingers are crossed from that. But beyond that, we've been really working to maintain our biohacking practices in the new house because I know how good it makes me feel. But one of the first things I noticed when I moved into this house is that there's no window treatments beyond just your basic blinds, the ones that, twist open and shut. And that is just not enough to block out the early morning 4:30 a.m. light that's coming in during the day. And I didn't want to have my sleep disrupted. So we actually have had cardboard taped up on our windows until last night when we finally went and got some new blackout curtains that we've installed, and it's been great. But because I've had this cardboard taped on the window, we've been using like painter's tape, which is not the stickiest of tape, but we've been using it to like keep the cardboard on the wall. And I've been doing like interviews and calls this week, and then the painter's tape will give out and it'll come crashing to the floor. And this house, I'm not used to the sounds of this house yet. And I'm like on an interview the other day and I can hear this big like creaking and then a bang, and I was like, oh my god, what is that? And I'm trying to like keep my cool on this interview, but really the tape had just lost its sticky and all the cardboard came crashing down in the next room. Oh my god, it absolutely scared me. So I have been diligently looking for a proper pair of blackout curtains, and my gosh, it is so hard to find a good pair. I always do something called the flashlight test. I turn my flashlight on my phone and I put it up behind the blackout curtain. And if I can see any light from my phone flashlight through the blackout curtain, it's not really blackout. And I can't tell you how many stores sell blackout curtains that aren't really blackout. That's why I kind of advocate against buying your curtains online unless you've, had someone recommend them to you, because so many curtains that say blackout aren't. And you need to look for ones that specifically say like hotel quality. I find that those ones are usually the best. But beyond that, oh my gosh, we've also been watching the Loki series. If you're a Marvel or an Avengers fan, you might be watching alongside me right now. But oh my gosh, we were up watching that last night, and that in between adjusting to the new blinds, it has been a blessing to have all these biohacking practices in place. Otherwise, I can't imagine how I'd be feeling recording this podcast. So if you ever move, don't forget to keep your biohacking. Put some cardboard on the windows, even if it needs to be with some tape, because it will really help your sleep. So before we jump in today, I just wanted to mention it to you that like this podcast specifically, how many episodes I have that give you literally my best stuff. Everything I have, whether it be on nutrition or sleep or movement or stress management, all in an effort to help you biohack your brain so you can have optimized focus and energy and productivity. And there is a ton of information that you go to, but sometimes it can be tough to put it all together in the right order, because there are definitely things that need to come first and then things next. And how do you know when you're ready? That is my job. So I would love to extend the invitation to you that if you were on the fence about working with me or finding out what it's about, I want to invite you to book a 60-minute consultation call with me where we're going to sit down and take a look at your whole health history, everything from your sleep to your movement to your energy to your nutrition. And we are going to see where the breakdown is, where is causing all the inflammation that is leading to you feeling not so refreshed when you wake up or tired. So think of this as 60 minutes devoted to you. And at the end, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to help you do that and fix that by A, B, and C. And what we can do is then decide if we are a perfect fit to move together. And I think what makes coaching so unique is that I'm there to coach you through those moments when the motivation runs out, because we all know that starting anything new is easy when you're motivated, and it's easy to eat well and it's easy to go to your workouts. But what happens when motivation wears off? That's where I come in to help teach you discipline and help coach you through those moments when motivation runs out, so you don't have to rely on that short-term motivation anymore, and how to do it when you don't feel like it. So I would love to talk to you if that is something you are ready to take a next step on. So I will leave a link in the description for you to book in a consultation with me. It's 60 minutes and let's get the ball rolling. You've probably already made a decision that you want to make your health better. I want to invite you to take this next step to work with me when you're ready. So let's jump into this episode all about 6 delicious, no sugar, no flour breakfasts. So I gotta tell you, my breakfasts have come a long way. When I was in my bodybuilding phase, kind of like 2012 to 2014, I even did one of those fitness competitions where you stand on stage in a bikini. I did it all. I've done powerlifting. I've done the whole 9 yards when it comes to fitness. And I used to have what I now consider like one of the grossest breakfasts, because I thought that that was what my body needed. Like, are you ready for this? I used to put egg whites only, because back then I was fat phobic. Now I know that our brains need fat for high performance, but I used to put like a 1/4 cup of egg whites in a mug in the microwave. And I used to stand outside the microwave and like watch the egg. If you've ever seen, first of all, eggs in the microwave, they expand upwards out of the cup, kind of like a big mushroom cap, and they go, and then you have to time it perfectly. You have to have them in the microwave just the right amount of time so that they don't grow so big that they fall out of your cup, but they stay in the cup. And then when you turn the microwave off, they shrink back down into the cup. And it's so disgusting. They tasted like rubber. But that was also when I was doing my undergrad in university, and I needed something super quick. And I'm going to tell you, mug eggs did the trick. I got my protein in the morning, but it was just nasty. And I used to mix some like HP sauce in there and stir it in the mug. Oh, it was so gross. And then just to make it even more bland, I used to have plain oatmeal. Just plain, with some water and a microwave. Like, my breakfast, I tell you, I've come a long way since then. And part of this episode is because so many people struggle with breakfast more than any other meal. We can come up with healthy lunches. We can come up with healthy dinners. But over and over again, I'm having the conversation with my clients about the lack of inspiration or ideas when it comes to breakfast, especially if you're following a no sugar, no flour lifestyle. So back on, I think it was episode 5 of the podcast, where I talked all about exactly why I love no sugar and no flour, especially during work days, and what it does for my brain to keep blood sugar stable. This is why I always have a no sugar, no flour breakfast. So this episode is dedicated to 6 delicious options. I know that no sugar, no flour makes a lot of us go, what the heck is there to eat? But my goal today is to give you so many options that you're just like, yes, I have all the things I need to eat healthy in the morning so that my brain can have high performance. So why is breakfast so important? Well, I believe that your first meal of the day really sets the tone. And people can go wrong with breakfast. And this is the way I see it happen. It is a simple carb feast. So I want you to think of traditional breakfast: cereal, granola, toast and peanut butter, a bagel, a bar, or maybe you even skip breakfast and don't eat until 12. But if you look at all the traditional breakfasts, especially the ones that are marketed to us, they are all simple carbohydrates. And if you aren't familiar with the difference between a simple carbohydrate and a complex carbohydrate, basically, it has to do with how fast the glucose, that's the sugar within the carbohydrate, gets absorbed into the blood. So usually really simple carbohydrates and things that are made of sugar and flour tend to be absorbed into the blood rather quickly. So they cause a very big blood sugar spike. which is then caused by a very big insulin spike. And all of this can lead to body fat gain as well as brain fog and inflammation. And that is not what we want. We want sharp brains for our businesses. Now, complex carbohydrates specifically usually have more fiber in them, or they are a type of carbohydrate that tends to get absorbed a little more slowly. So a really good example is a piece of white bread or traditional cereal. Those are considered simple carbohydrates and they will spike your blood sugar quickly. Let's contrast with something like, let's say Brussels sprouts, or even let's say like squash. Something like that has inherently a lot of fiber in it will slow the absorption of the carbohydrates, so you won't get that massive blood sugar spike that will cause the crash that comes with the foggy thinking and the energy crash. We want stable energy throughout the day, so we need to make sure we're starting that with breakfast. And the biggest mistake, like I said, that people make is they start their day with a simple carb dump into their body. So we're going to change that today, because remember, biohacking your nutrition is all about, or maybe not all about, but in part, you want to have stable blood sugar because that is what's going to create less inflammation. Now, I'm very strategic with my breakfast because I'm always walking that fine line between balancing my hormones and keeping my mental acuity and clarity and sharpness and focus in mind. I'll talk about the hormones shortly. But what I don't do is have an all carbohydrate breakfast. That's that idea of the carbohydrate dump first thing in the morning. And usually if you look at most of our meals, they're just carbohydrates. So we need to make sure that we're including a well-balanced plan. An all carb breakfast, like I said, raises blood sugar quickly. Then we get that crash. And when you are having that crash, now try to be productive. Try to focus. It's very difficult. So one of my rules of thumb is to always include a protein or fat, or preferably both, at breakfast. This helps, like I said, to slow digestion, and it also helps slow that blood sugar rise. We're always choosing smart carbohydrates, which we're going to talk about a little bit, in addition to that protein and that fat. Now, I'm not saying carbohydrates are bad. In fact, I love carbohydrates and they have their place in my nutrition plan. For example, I love eating carbs at dinner, specifically slow digesting carbs. Like I love me a good sweet potato or some quinoa or buckwheat or amaranth or all of the great options. If you want to really hear about carbs, I talk about it on the episode I did called No Sugar, No Flour, What the Heck Do I Eat? I really go into detail there on all the different carbohydrate sources that are great for you, but I like to eat those about at 3 hours before bed, or at least 3 hours before bed. The reason for that is actually these carbohydrates may boost an amino acid called tryptophan, which is a precursor for serotonin, that's that feel-good neurotransmitter, and melatonin, which is the hormone that we want to help us engage in good quality sleep. Now, if you ask my opinion, I don't want to be feeling tired or cozy when I'm at work. I want to be alert and focused so that I can produce my absolute best for my clients and my content and all of that stuff. So I do, for the majority of times, like to leave the bulk of my carbohydrates for the end of my day. But we're going to talk about that as well. So what I want to go into now is the two factors when I'm considering what I'm going to eat for breakfast. So there's the what I'm going to eat, right? Like what are the actual foods? And there is the when that I will eat. And I went into detail on this a couple podcast episodes back on the episode called The Truth About Intermittent Fasting. That's actually episode 34. And it talks all about the strategy behind meal timing when we're taking hormones into account. So on average, I do intermittent fasting 1 week out of every month, and it has to do with my hormone cycle. So during that week where I'm doing intermittent fasting, I'll actually eat my breakfast closer to 9:30 a.m. And I want you to keep this in mind. I usually wake up at 5 or 5:30 a.m. So this is about 4 to 4.5 hours after I wake up. That is on the week that I'm doing intermittent fasting, and that usually is on the week right after my cycle ends. So my period ends, then I will do intermittent fasting for a whole bunch of reasons that I talked about on that episode. Go listen to it if you're interested in that. The rest of the month, I aim to eat right when I wake up. When I was reading the book, The Power of When by Dr. Michael Bruce, I learned that our gut and our digestive system function on something called an ultradian rhythm. So you've probably heard of circadian rhythm. I mean, especially if you've listened to this podcast, and it's how your body functions relative to a 24-hour clock. That's circadian rhythm. Well, an ultradian rhythm is anything that is less than a 24-hour rhythm. And in that book, he cites that the gut actually functions on a 4-hour digestive cycle. So eating right when you wake up actually kickstarts the body, and every 4 hours after that. Now, like I said, you'll notice that when I do my intermittent fasting week, I do eat about 4 hours after I wake up. So I do think about these things. But if you're just wanting to keep it really simple, you're going to want to be spacing your meals out about every 4 hours according to following your ultradian rhythm. And that for me means eating right when I wake up at least 3 weeks out of the month. Now, if you're a male listening to this and you have a regular 24-hour testosterone hormone cycle, this is not going to apply to you because you can technically follow that eating right when you wake up at any time, or you can eat later. So this is just something you really want to test with yourself. I used to always do intermittent fasting, and I found that it had some negative effects on my body. So I make sure now that I am prioritizing how my brain works over what pant size I can get into in terms of intermittent fasting and what it does for my body. So that's just something to think about. So the other factor beyond when I will eat is what I will eat, and that comes down to taste. Now, technically for me, I don't really get bored of food choices. And I mean, some clients that I talk to, they get bored with eating the same foods all the time. But I don't. I tend to be eating the same thing year round, but I know not everyone. I always say that I have the most boring taste buds in the world because I can't eat the same thing. I don't know if that's just more my mindset of being okay with eating the same thing, or if I actually don't mind the taste, but because I know everyone is different, I'm actually going to be giving you 6 no sugar, no flour recipes just in case you want to switch up. So to summarize all of that, I eat my breakfast depending where I am in my hormone cycle. So during my follicular phase, that's usually the first couple weeks of your cycle. Specifically, I like to think of it as right from when your period ends for about a week. I actually have no carbs at breakfast at all. This partly is because your blood sugar is much more stable during this part of your cycle and you have a reduced appetite. Now, from ovulation onwards, your body actually requires more calories and your blood sugar is less stable. So this is when I incorporate carbohydrates at breakfast. Now, like I said, if you're not a female and you have a regular 24-hour hormone cycle of the testosterone cycle like a male, this won't apply to you. So I'm just giving you both sides of the coins depending on which strategy you need to follow. So when we talk about the different breakfasts, not everyone is going to have time to wake up in the morning and prepare a fresh breakfast. So I do want you to keep in mind, which of these recipes would I be able to make in bulk? Do I have time to make them each morning? It really just depends on your lifestyle, what you have, what you want to make time for and what you're cooking. You can also think about freezing them or just having them fresh and handy in the fridge. So let's jump into our 6 breakfasts that I know you're going to love. So breakfast number 1 is what I eat the majority of the time. I eat this breakfast almost every single day with a couple modifications. I have 2 to 3 scrambled eggs in the morning, and we often change up the spices and stuff. So we will have Himalayan sea salt, we'll mix in oregano, and we'll mix in different things to make the eggs taste good. But beyond the eggs, we pair that with half an avocado. So like I said, there's so many things you can add to scrambled eggs, and you can look up great recipes on the internet. You could add peppers and onions and spinach and cumin and chili powder and all of these things to give it a lot of flavor. But at the end of the day, breakfast number 1 that I love is just basic scrambled eggs and half an avocado. This gives me my no carb option with plenty of healthy fats coming from both the avocado and the egg, as well as the protein that we're finding in the eggs. Breakfast number 2 is my carb breakfast of choice. So what I end up doing is I put a 1/3 cup of quick oats. So these are the ones you buy in bulk, not the ones that come in the packages with the sugars and all the flavorings. This is literally just plain oatmeal into a bowl. I then add in a tablespoon of chia seeds. This helps me get my fiber and my fat and a tiny bit of protein, and a tablespoon of flax seeds. So once I've got that all mixed in there, I add a cup of organic mixed berries. And you can add in just blueberries if you like them, or just strawberries, but I really like the organic mixed berries because then I get raspberries, blackberries, blueberries, strawberries, cherries, and all of these different colors mean different nutrients, and berries are full of antioxidants. So these are a great way to start the morning. So breakfast number 1, like I said, was the 2 to 3 scrambled eggs with half an avocado. Breakfast number 2, 1/3 cup oatmeal with chia seeds, flax seeds, and organic mixed berries. So during that window where I am doing intermittent fasting, so that week right after my cycle ends, I will usually eat the 2 to 3 scrambled eggs with half an avocado at about 9 to 9:30 a.m. But for the rest of the month, when I know my body needs a little bit more carbohydrate, I will actually eat the oatmeal and the eggs, and I will put the avocado at lunch, like with a salad or something else. So I will put that source of fat somewhere else in the day. So what I didn't do was just have the oatmeal, because there is a lot of carbohydrates in that, even though the chia seeds and the flax seeds have fiber and fat and protein and all of that stuff in it. For me, I just want a little more protein. So the eggs are something that really help offset the amount of carbs in the oatmeal. So those are the first 2 breakfasts, and those are the ones I repeat week after week. But I have 4 more for you that I've also tried, and they are delicious. And I know you're going to love them too. So the next recipe is actually one that I found from a chef that I discovered during my bodybuilding days. And his name is Kevin Curry, and he owns a blog called Fit Men Cook. And he is a very fit man, and he does cook. He has wonderful recipes on his website if you were looking for some inspiration. But I really identified with his motto. And his motto was, our bodies are built in the kitchen, but sculpted in the gym. And I loved that, because I always tell my clients that exercise should not be for weight loss. It should be for mental health. It should be for sculpting and adding muscle and just creating a well-balanced, place for your body to be free of inflammation. But I don't ever use exercise as a tool for weight loss. I just find it is too slow, and you really cannot out exercise food anyway. So I really identified with that. So he has a recipe called Healthy Breakfast Hash, and I am going to link to this one in the description because I do have recipes for some of these. There's also a video to watch him cook it, which is not bad at all. But in this recipe, what he does is he takes butternut squash chunks. I mean, you could use sweet potato as well. And he puts them in a skillet, and he adds in zucchini chunks and bell pepper and salt and pepper. And what he actually does is he uses a protein source. I mean, I think in the video he uses chicken sausage, but you could also use ground turkey or something else, whatever you like. And he mixes these all together in the skillet. And then what he actually does is he puts 2 eggs into the skillet as well to add another source of protein. And then he does a whole avocado. Now, the serving size for this is actually pretty big. I think you could probably split this up into 2 or 3 meals. But this healthy breakfast hash is basically one of our slow digesting carbohydrates like sweet potato or squash. We've got a little bit of carbs from the zucchini, the bell pepper. You have your fats from the eggs and avocado, and protein from the eggs, and whether you use chicken sausage or whatever else. And you have to see the image on this recipe. Just looking at it makes you want it. It feels like one of those recipes like you get in a skillet when you go to a restaurant and order it. It is absolutely beautiful and delicious. It hits all the markers we want for a healthy breakfast. So that's number 3, healthy breakfast hash. Now the 4th one is a BLT lettuce wrap. This is also one I have linked in the description if you want the breakdown for it. So basically, you don't even really need a recipe. It's super simple. You're going to take a organic romaine lettuce or some other type of leafy green that is, sizable enough that you could do a wrap with. You are going to put on some avocado mayo. And side note, if you are still using regular mayo, you need to try avocado mayo. The reason for this is it uses avocado oil instead of crappy oils that are found in, canola oils and vegetable oils and sunflower oils and stuff like that. Avocado mayo is high in great fat, and it is so much healthier than traditional mayo. And I got to tell you, the first time you do try it, it has a bit of a tang, but honestly, I've been eating it so long now that when I go back to regular mayo, it just does not taste as good. So I get one at Costco, and I'm sure they sell them everywhere else, but I would highly recommend trying out avocado mayo if you haven't before. So back to our BLT lettuce wrap. You are going to take your romaine lettuce, put on some avocado mayo, slice up some organic tomatoes. Ooh, you're going to take a couple hard-boiled eggs and you'll slice them and put them on there too. And then if you want, you can take nitrate-free natural bacon, cook it up, and put it on these wraps. So basically you're making a sandwich with the lettuce leaf, and inside you have mayo, tomatoes, hard-boiled eggs, and a little bit of bacon. You can add some salt and pepper, but it's basically your BLT sandwich in a lettuce wrap to cut out the unnecessary simple carbs. So in this one, you're getting your fats from the avocado mayo and the eggs. Your protein is coming from the eggs and from the bacon, and then you're just getting a base carb with the lettuce and the tomatoes. It's minimal, but it is there. So BLT lettuce wrap might be something you want to add to your breakfast menu. Recipe number 5 is an egg muffin. This is the last recipe that I've actually linked in the description as well. So I really like making these. These are good if you are on the go or you need to grab something quick. These freeze really well. You might have even seen them. I've seen them before actually at Starbucks. They call them like egg cups or something like that. But the recipe that I've shared with you actually mixes almond milk, shredded chicken breast, chopped spinach, tomatoes, ground pepper, garlic powder, and salt. You mix those all together, and then what you do is you spray down or put some coconut oil or butter on like a muffin tin, the ones that you usually bake muffins in, and you put this egg mixture in the muffin tins and you put it in the oven. And it has on the recipe link like all the, temperatures and how long and everything like that. But basically think that it's going to be like a muffin tin with a scrambled egg, maybe a scrambled omelet almost, inside each cup. And when they bake, they come out in the shape of your little muffin tin, which is absolutely perfect for storing in the freezer, keeping in the fridge on hand. They're super easy to pop in the microwave in the morning and go. So if you want to add a little bit more nutrition to this egg muffin, not that it's not already wonderful, you can actually slice a bell pepper in half, or maybe not so much in half, but like you can cut the top off and fill the entire pepper with this mixture and bake it. So it is, you know how you do like stuffed bell peppers and you would put like a ground meat in there? You can also do that with this egg. So now it's like you have a bowl of scrambled eggs, but it's already cooked and it's on the go, and you can store it in the freezer or keep it in the fridge. This can be such a versatile recipe. You get your protein, you get your fat, you get your carbohydrates, and you are ready to go. The last recipe we're covering today is going to be a breakfast patty. Now, a client and I kind of came up with these, and I mean, I'm sure you could find them on the internet, but we were brainstorming, like, what is a really simple recipe you can eat on the go? It's plenty of nutrition in it, and we came up with the idea of a homemade breakfast patty. You can use ground turkey for this, you can use ground chicken for this, but my actual favorite is using canned wild salmon. So making a salmon breakfast patty. There are so many amazing benefits to eating salmon, specifically wild salmon, 3 to 4 times per week in terms of brain health. And I do want to do actually a whole episode on fish in the future, because I find fish really fascinating in what it does for our focus and performance. And it is just something that I see such a lack of when I look at my clients' food journals. So adding these sources of omega-3 fats is great. So basically what you can do is you can take your canned salmon, or like I said, ground turkey or chicken, mix it with lots of spices. Choose your favorites. Do you want it to be spicy? Do you want it to be with oregano or something else? You can bind it with an egg if you want, if you find that it's not making a patty. I know usually ground turkey and chicken will bind quite nicely, but if you find that your salmon patty is getting a little flaky, bind it with some egg. Or even you can pair it with scrambled eggs after, but basically you'll just make them into a patty and fry them. You can make a whole bunch at once, store them in the freezer, keep them in the fridge. These are great for getting your fat, your protein, and your carbohydrates, especially, if you add things into them like peppers and spinach, kind of like the egg muffins, except with salmon, right? The protein, the fat, so good. So just a very quick recap of these 6 delicious no sugar, no flour breakfast. I know. Did you ever think you would have so many options that were so good? You have the scrambled eggs with half an avocado. You have the oatmeal with flax seeds, chia seeds, and mixed berries. You have your healthy breakfast hash. That's with the sweet potato and the zucchini and all that in the skillet. You have a BLT lettuce wrap. You have the egg muffins that come in the muffin tray tin. And you have your homemade breakfast patty. So one last thing I want to close out with. Breakfast does not have to contain breakfast foods. I know that the recipes that I gave you all are generally breakfast foods, maybe with the exception of the salmon, but it doesn't have to be breakfast foods. We really get stuck in the idea that it needs to be, a certain group of foods that we eat over and over for breakfast. But there is nothing wrong with having a salad for breakfast or having Brussels sprouts and, a steak. Like, there's nothing wrong with mixing up your foods. So if you're finding that you're getting stuck in a rut, don't be afraid to break the mold, so to speak, and choose something that you wouldn't normally choose for breakfast. Like, what is your favorite lunch? Have it for breakfast. What is your favorite dinner? Have it for breakfast. It's kind of like the idea of, having breakfast for dinner and it's just so good. It is also good to have dinner for breakfast. It's just a little atypical, but these are all definitely options to help you expand your breakfast menu. So that is our episode today. I hope that you really enjoyed it, and I would love to hear which of these you're cooking up in your breakfast this week. So if you take a photo of it and post it on Instagram, don't forget to tag me at Tanessa Shears, or even just send me a message. I love to see all the different breakfast options you're cooking, and if you have a breakfast recipe that you're like, Tanessa, you need to know about this, send it to me on Instagram. I would absolutely love to see it and add it to my growing collection of recipes. Like, I've got dozens of recipes, but these 6 are usually my top favorite. And if you would do me one last favor before you head out today, could you please take a moment to leave a review on iTunes? When you leave a review like this, not only does it give me feedback and let me know that you love what you're listening to and you find it useful, but it really helps iTunes show our show to more people so that we can really help other entrepreneurs biohack their brain and their body with science so that we can have more productivity, energy, and focus in your business. I would be extremely grateful if you would take 2 minutes to do that today. And I hope you have an absolutely fantastic week ahead, and I will talk to you next week. Bye. Ready to begin each day feeling energized and focused? I'd love to work with you one-on-one. In my Becoming Limitless program, you're going to learn how to optimize your brain and body with science and biohacking so you can be highly productive and grow your business faster. Join me over at TanessaShears.com/work with me. I'll see you there.